Hello and welcome. This is Japan, and I had an interesting concept for a video. I wanted to do this last year, and I just didn't get a chance to do it. So I'm going to do it this year because I'm trying to do my best to make sure I get in there right away and do it because I know I'm going to mess up and miss it out. But Pro Wrestling Illustrated is a magazine, obviously for wrestling, if you didn't know, and they do a 250 top list for the best men and women. And last year, I did a video on how terrible it was because a lot of the women on there are great, but they aren't the craziest out there. So I kind of wanted to do it again, but this time I'm going to predict what I believe their one to 10 is, because there is a lot that could possibly they put into this, but I kind of feel like I know their formula to a certain extent, and so I'm going to try my best to predict it. So we're going to go from 10 and work our way down. So last year's, just kind of run down, it was Tony Storm at 1, Jordan Grace, Rhea Ripley, Maki from Stardom, or yeah. I think I definitely did not get her name right. Then Stephanie Vicor, Sari, Bailey, Willow, Mariah May, and Athena. So a lot of them have, a certain year that they had projectile, for what they did. And I'm gonna try to, recreate what I think they're gonna have. So right off the bat at number 10, I do believe is gonna be Io Sky. Completely the wrong position to put her in, but last year she was 13th. I think they're gonna move her up because she did have a title and she did stuff. Even in 2024, she still was a champion, so she shouldn't have been that low in 13. But I think they're going to give her a little bit more respect and put her in the top 10. It should be much higher. Then at 9, I do feel like they're going to move Athena up one spot. She was 10th last year. I think they're going to move her up. She's obviously still been a champion the whole entire year. I don't think I necessarily agree or disagree. I'm going to do my own list, and we'll discuss it a little bit more on that one, because it was very difficult to pick a top 10 women, and because there are a lot of people that just deserve being really high up there. So it was difficult in its own self. So number 8, I do believe they're going to push Chris Statlander. She's had a pretty solid year, but I think they're going to put her up there because they normally put the AEW Women's Champion pretty high up there. And I know she's only had it for a little bit of time, but I do think she will be at that eight spot. You could also maybe put a slash like that. It could be what is that, Marina Shafir, that one that's part of the Deaf Riders, and she's had some pretty good independent things. I couldn't really decide what they're going to put. I figured they'd value the AEW champion a little bit higher, but overall, I don't think there's going to be much more that they're going to possibly do. I think 8 is a okay spot, I guess, for that. I personally, like I said, I like Chris Statlander a lot, but I don't know if I'd have her in my top 10 because she's had an okay year, but just getting the championship at the last couple months, I don't think she has had time to really put that resume that would put her up higher. So then this is when it starts getting a little tricky because, at 7 last year they had Bailey, and I don't think they would have, somebody there, but I do believe it's going to be a WWE person, and I think it's going to be Becky Lynch. I think she was 17th last year, and I think she'll have that big move, even though last year she had the heavyweight championship, or the WWE championship. I always call it the heavyweight championship because that's what the men's is, and the women's they just call like a championship. I don't know why, but I think they're going to put her up there at 7, which I guess it just depends on what you're doing the list for. I personally don't think that she's up that high. I do like her a lot, but I just don't think that they should be putting her. Then at 6, they had Sari there last year. I believe they're going to put Sari there again. She's had a pretty solid year. She held the New Japan Pro Wrestling men's title, or not men's title, women's title, and I think she's had some pretty solid matches throughout the year. So I could see her moving up to 5, but I think the solid 5, I think, is probably where I'm gonna have the most things being correct. And my cat's jumping up here, so I gotta toss him back down. But this is where it gets a little tricky, but here is the top 5. So last year they had Stephanie at 5, and I do think that Stephanie should be much higher. So I think she's still going to be up there, but I think at 5 they're going to have Tiffany Stratton. Obviously, she's had a monster year, undefeated for most of it, and as the women's champion pretty much the entire year. It does make a lot of sense. I think she's a top 10 wrestler right now? Probably not, but I do think they're going to value that championship more than anything else. Then at 4 is where I'm going to put uh I really do think it's going to be Stephanie Vicor at 4. I think she's had 4 championships this year, so she should be much higher. But I do believe that's kind of where they're going to go with it because it's just kind of the next thing. Then in the top 3, they always kind of have a stardom person up there. I do think it's going to be Saya. She's had a phenomenal year. She's probably the most recognizable star in stardom right now. So 3 is a perfect spot to put her. And then at 2, falling down one spot will be Toni Storm. She's been champion pretty much the entire year. She's had some solid matches. I really don't see how you could have her at 1 and then drop her dramatically, but I think one spot makes sense. And then at number 1, I predict that Pro Wrestling Illustrated will select as the number 1 woman, it's going to be Mercedes Moné. I mean, she's has 10 belts and all that. They absolutely care about championships. They care about, matches, and they really seem to be doing that and putting Toni Storm as 1 last year. But they had Jordynne Grace at 2, and that's where I see Jordynne Grace was the TNA Knockouts champion, and she was doing a bunch of independent stuff, and I think that's what valued her at 2. So that's what I'm thinking. It's my top 10. I could see other people. I would say Naomi and Rhea Ripley will be knocking on the door. Liv Morgan probably is up there. That's at least what I'd think. Lyra should get higher. She was 20th last year. I think she should probably get a couple spots here. But there's not a lot of wiggle room because there's not a lot of people that are going to fall out of the top 10. I obviously think Mariah May is going to fall out because she left AEW. She did have the championship at one point, but I think because she left AEW and now is in WWE, she hasn't won a championship. I don't think they're going to value her as high. And Willow Nightingale, who's had a pretty solid year, but nothing super crazy. And then Bailey. I think those 3 will definitely pop out pretty far. But yeah, tell me what you guys think. I'm going to do a video on my own probably very soon, so you'll have to then judge me and see if I'm going to be wrong about that. But until next time, this has been Japan. Bye, guys.